All right, welcome to this lesson on box plots and a five-figure summary. Now I'm gonna jump straight into this because this is a really quite straightforward way of analysing data. So a box plot is what you can see here on the screen. It's this shape up here. It has a few parts, all right? So I'll label the parts and we'll talk about what they mean and indicate. So I've got this part here, it's called a whisker, and the same on the other side. Whisker, all right? Then this middle line here is the median. This line here is called Q3. This line here is called Q1. And what Q1 stands for is quartile 1. The same for Q3, it stands for quartile 3. All right, so what you've effectively got is 4 sections of graph. All right, so you've got this section, this section, this section, and this section. And I won't give you any prizes for working out what those sections are called. And if you have shouted at your screen that those might be called quarters, you would be 100% correct. All right, so this is where the word quartile comes from quarter, it means 4. All right, so each part is called a quartile, not a quarter, quartile. All right, written like this. Now what that means for our analysis is that we can actually have a look at this one here. This is the middle, so we know that that's where the middle number is. We know that inside the box there are 2 quarters, which is half of our people, half of the people, or this whatever's in the survey. All right, then outside the box is the top half, the top quarter and the bottom quarter. All right, so that's fairly straightforward. So just remember, if you ever forget how to do a box plot, all you have to remember is divide it into quarters and draw a box based off those numbers. All right, so let's look at how to read it then. So for this question, we want to find the median, which is the middle line. So we can see the median is 15. That's pretty easy. The minimum. So where's the smallest number on the box plot? You can see that it's down here at the bottom of the bottom quarter, which is 5. The maximum is at the top of the top quarter, which is 25. The range, if you're not quite sure what the range is, think back to your year 7 and year 8 stats, and that should be the distance from the smallest to the biggest, which you can see is 25, take 25, which is just 20. All right, so 25 subtract 5, or the distance from 5 to 25, which is 20. All right, the lower quartile in brackets Q1, so you can see here that's the bottom of the box, that's where the first quarter ends, you can see is 10. The upper quartile, which is Q3, which is the top of the box here, which is where the second quarter ends and the third quarter ends, is at 20. And then the IQR, or the interquartile range, it could be any 2 quartiles, but generally we say that it's Q3 minus Q1, which in this case is 10, because it's distance from 10 to 20. So what the IQR measures is the distance of the box, and you can see that that's 10 long. All right, so now we've had a crash course in what a box plot looks like, how to read it. We're going to delve in how to build them. All right, so if you needed to go back and have a look at what was written over there, you can just rewind the video. So we've got a data set here, and we're going to consider it, and we're going to determine whether any outliers exist by first finding Q1 and Q3, which we'll come to in a second, and then we're going to draw a box plot. All right, so to draw a box plot, I'm going to do this a bit backwards. I'm going to first of all draw the box plot, then work out this. All right, so to draw a box plot, I need to find what is called a 5-figure summary. And if you look back at the example we just went through, that sort of gives you some big hints. So the first one you want is the minimum, because that's the bottom of the whisker. Then you want Q1, because that's the start of the box. Then you want the median, because that's the middle of the box. Then you want Q3, because that's the top of the box. And then you want the maximum, because that is the top of the whisker. All right, so all you have to do is find out those values from your data set, plug them in, and then you can draw a box plot. All right, so let's look back at our data set. What's the smallest number we can see here? We can see that there's a 3. So the minimum is 3. The maximum, that's often easiest to do, is 12. All right, now to do Q1, Q3 and the median, the kicker is that this data set has to be in order from smallest to largest. So I'm going to rewrite this from smallest to largest, and as I write each number, I'm going to cross it out so that I know when I have written down every single number in the data set. All right, this is where it gets tedious, but I will only make you deal with data sets that are relatively easy to handle. So there's no more 4s, there are 2 5s, there and there. There's another 5 there and there, 2 more 5s, there and there. There are 2 6s, there and there. There is a 7, there is a 9, there is a 12, and then if you've just suddenly realized like I have that there is also a 2, we need to put that here. We also need to change our minimum from a 3 to a 2, all right? So just to make sure we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that checks out. Now, to find these Q1, Q3 and the median, we first of all say, all right, where's the middle number? Now for a data set of 13 numbers, the middle number is going to be the 7th number. I'll show you why. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's the 7th number. Now, if we count up how many numbers we have here, there are 6. How many numbers do I have here? There are also 6. So the goal for dividing it into quarters is to always make sure you have even parts. So notice that when I say that that is the middle number, each half now has 6 in it, which is even. All right, so the median is 5. Now, Q1, when I'm finding Q1, I take the bottom half and I say there are 6 numbers, so Q1 must be, I'll just chop it in half. So there's 3 on each side now, 3 and 3. I'll do the same to the top half, there, 3 there, and 3 there. Now, this is where Q1 is actually, Q3 is actually in between 6 and 7, and Q1 is actually in between 3 and 4. So Q1 is 3.5 because that's in between, has to be halfway in between, and Q3 is 6.5. All right, so the goal for you to do this is to always make sure you're chopping it into even parts. So you can see the median divided it into halves, even halves. Then Q1 and Q3 chopped it into smaller parts, which were all size 3. All right, so you have to make sure that all your quarters are the same size before you establish what the Q1 and Q3 are. Okay, then to draw our box plot, it's just a matter of putting those onto a number line. So I'll draw a number line that goes from 0 to 15. All right, I'll put in, let's go up by 3s. So 3, 6, 9, 12. All right, and then 15. So first one, we've got our minimum is 2, which is going to be about here. We've got our maximum is 12, which is going to be spot on that number there. We've got our Q1 is at 3.5, and no one's going to pull out their ruler and say, oh, sorry, that's too close to 4. Just put it approximately. All right. Our median is at 5, which is just there. And our Q3 is at 6.5, which is right there. All right. Now notice that the min and the max I put as dots, but Q1, the median, and Q3 I put as lines. And that's because I'm going to make these the box, and I'm going to make the dots the whiskers. All right, so I've just transferred these numbers into a visual representation so I can pretty clearly see what the data looks like. All right. So then someone looking at it could say, oh, I can see that the range goes from, roughly 12 down to 2, so it's about 10, which is pretty good. People looking at it could also say, I can see that most people are between 4 and 7, it looks like, which would be pretty close to these values here. So they could say that half the people are between 4 and 7 for whatever the study was. All right, so a box plot is actually a pretty useful way of displaying summary statistics. And it's very easy to read once you get the hang of it. Sometimes it can be a little bit complex to produce, as you've seen here, having to find the quartiles, but overall it's a pretty simple way of displaying these summary statistics. All right, so to recap, we've got a box plot. It's also called a box and whisker plot because these are called whiskers. All right, we've got, it's based off a data set divided into quarters. which are approximately equal. And we say approximately because it can become a little bit messy. All right, so the quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. All right, now often, because of the way data is distributed, these whiskers, or as you can see in our example here, this whisker is longer than or shorter than this whisker. That doesn't mean the quarters are different sizes. All that means is the range inside that quarter is bigger than the range inside that quarter. All right, which will make more sense as you do more problems. The whisker stops at the minimum and stops at the maximum, and the solid line in the middle shows where the median is. All right, then the box shows you where half of your people are, because of the very fact that you have 2 quarters inside the box. So that's half of your people. All right, so next video we'll have a look at some outliers and how to calculate them.